They told you healing was about rest, about stillness, about waiting. They told you energy was something that needed to be balanced, calmed, soothed, as if your power was something fragile. That's not healing. That's sedation. And the ancient ones, the real architects of spiritual mechanics, never taught you to quiet your energy. They taught you to use it, to direct it, to command it. Because energy doesn't exist to make you feel good. It exists to make you whole. And wholeness isn't peace. It's integration. It's force moving with purpose, not floating in sentiment. You think Thoth was just a scribe, a record keeper, a figure wrapped in Egyptian symbolism. But Thoth was something else, an intelligence, a consciousness code, a transmission of law. He didn't come to inspire, he came to activate, not with inspiration, rather with technology. And the technology he offered wasn't external. It was the very substance of your being, your energy, your will, your internal field. The ancient texts didn't romanticize healing, they built a system. And that system starts with a simple premise. You are not a body with energy. You are energy with a temporary body. You've been taught to outsource your health, physically, emotionally, energetically. You're told healing is a process of time, therapy, medicine, permission. That's a lie. Healing is not a process. It's a shift in frequency, and your energy field knows exactly how to do it. If you stop getting in the way. Because your body is not broken. Your emotions are not broken. Your energy is not chaotic. You are simply disconnected from the laws that govern regeneration. And Thoth didn't give you myths. He gave you maps. You're not here to be calm. You're here to be clear. Clarity is what heals, not passivity, not patience. Clarity of will, clarity of intent, clarity of energy. But clarity requires command, not force, not domination, inner instruction. Directive resonance. And directive resonance begins when you stop worshiping energy and start directing it. Because the field is not sacred because it's mysterious. It's sacred because it's programmable by you. Let's strip this down. Your body is not solid. Your thoughts are not isolated. Your trauma is not in the past. Everything about you, every cell, every memory, every function, is a current, a frequency, a pattern. If there's disease, it's a pattern. If there's stagnation, it's a pattern. And all patterns can be rewritten. But not through belief, through energy engagement. That's what Thoth taught. Not magic, not mythology. Mechanics. Modern healing culture has taught you to process, to sit with pain, to listen, to feel safe. But energy doesn't heal through comfort. It heals through recalibration, through pressure, through precision, through rerouting. When your liver is weak, it's not asking you to be kind. It's asking you to command blood, chi, thought, and breath into order. When your heart is heavy, it's not asking you to journal. It's asking you to discharge trapped electricity. When your spine is locked, it's not asking you to stretch. It's asking you to realign the electromagnetic blueprint of your core. But you were never taught that. You were told energy healing is something someone else does to you. A Reiki practitioner, a sound bath, a quantum coach. No. Real healing doesn't come from external frequencies, it comes from internal signal correction. And you are the only being who can issue that signal with full authority. Once you remember how to instruct your own field. Thoth gave that instruction, in silence, in geometry, in symbol, in vibration. But you wanted language, emotion, story, so the transmission was distorted, translated into religion, diluted into dogma, sold as spirituality, and the core truth was lost, that you are not a passive node in the universe, you are a generator of field integrity, and if you do not command your energy, someone else will, not maliciously, mechanically. Because the field does not wait, it obeys. Your immune system is not a mystery, it is a coherent network of field instructions. Your cells are not slow. They are instantaneous electrical responses. Your trauma is not who you are. It is a magnetic imprint. And all of it, can be repatterned through energetic clarity. Not hope, not therapy, not surrender. Clarity. But clarity comes at a cost. It means you have to stop identifying as someone who needs to be healed. Because the healing identity is the most seductive spiritual costume. It gives you reason to delay, to seek, to process endlessly. But healing doesn't take time. It takes activation. And activation only happens when energy is instructed. You're not broken, you're unfocused. Your pain isn't the problem. Your scattered attention is. You can't heal while waiting. You can only heal while transmitting a new signal and holding it. Not for a second, for a system-wide reset. And that reset only happens when you become the directive intelligence inside your own energy field. That's what Thoth encoded, not esoteric wisdom, operational law. The same law that governs light, blood, sound, thought, the same law that can collapse disease, reverse decay, reinstate cellular memory not because of belief, because of command. This is where healing becomes sovereignty. When you stop asking, how do I feel better, and start asking, how do I instruct this pattern to end? That's not cold. That's not mechanical, that's mastery. And your body has been waiting for you to arrive at that level of clarity. So stop saying, I'm healing. Start saying, I'm rebuilding field alignment. Stop asking, what's my wound? Start asking, what energy pattern have I left ungoverned? Stop praying for your body to fix itself. Start remembering that your body is your instruction set, and that it will do exactly what you tell it when the signal is clean. You say you want to heal, but what does that mean? Feel better? Be more at peace? Sleep through the night without overthinking? That's not healing. That's symptom management. That's sedation. You're not here to soothe your nervous system into submission. You're here to rewire it into command. Because healing isn't about how you feel. It's about how your field performs. How you move energy. How you stabilize clarity. Not once, but until clarity becomes your baseline. The field doesn't care about your trauma story. It doesn't respond to how much you've cried, how much you've purged, how many breakthroughs you've had. It responds to one thing: signal integrity. You can be in pain and still radiate coherence. You can be heartbroken and still emanate order, because pain isn't the opposite of healing. Chaos is. And the longer you equate stillness with repair, the more you confuse energy. Here's what you were never told. Your body is waiting for instructions. Every cell, every organ, every neural pathway. And when you don't give those instructions, it defaults to the old pattern. That's why it keeps coming back. The fatigue, the fog, the emotional loops. Not because you're not healing, because you're not commanding. You're still asking your system to self-organize, but it doesn't want permission. It wants leadership. Energy follows leadership, period. It doesn't matter how long you've been in therapy. It doesn't matter what you've survived. It doesn't even matter how spiritual you are. If your field is passive, your results will be inconsistent. Because healing isn't a spiritual identity. It's an electromagnetic equation. And your body listens to vibration, not language. It doesn't care what you call yourself. It cares what you broadcast. Every thought is a code. Every belief is a frequency. Every emotion is a directive. And when those signals are incoherent, when you say, I want to heal, but act like you're still wounded, think like you're still broken, move like you're still afraid, your body doesn't know what to follow. So it loops. Not because it's resistant, because it's confused. You've been taught to approach energy like a mood, like something sacred you need to honor and respect, but never discipline. That's the problem. You don't need reverence. You need responsibility. The field is programmable. It's not emotional. It's not moral. It doesn't respond to what you deserve. It responds to what you stabilize. Stabilization means repetition, calibration, Not a breakthrough, but a system. Your healing isn't waiting for a revelation. It's waiting for a standard, a set point, a signal that overrides every scattered instruction you've ever broadcasted through fear, doubt, and delay. But to send that signal, you have to stop treating energy like it's fragile. It's not. It's obedient. And if you don't instruct it, it will follow the dominant pattern, which in most people is chaos. Your symptoms are not the problem. They're the dashboard, the indicator lights. They're showing you where your field has collapsed, where your will is diluted, where your structure has holes. But you keep trying to fix the symptoms with feelings, with processing, with understanding. You don't need to understand why the car's light is on. You need to fix the system underneath. The system is your energy infrastructure, your default thoughts, your breathing rhythm, your posture, your sleep, your focus, your attention span, your movement, not spiritual, structural. And when you align these things, not from motivation but from command, your biology responds immediately, because energy isn't slow. You are. Your commitment is, your clarity is. But energy itself, it shifts in milliseconds, which means healing does too. If it's not shifting, you're not commanding. You're still hoping. Still spiritualizing your pain instead of engineering your power. This is why Thoth's teachings were encoded in math, not emotion. Because emotion is unstable, but math is eternal. And your field doesn't speak English. It speaks geometry, pattern, pulse. That's what the ancient temples were designed around. Harmonic ratios, phi spirals, magnetic flow. That's what your nervous system was designed to respond to. And you can replicate that with your breath, your focus, your internal instruction. You don't need a healer. You need an operator. And that operator is you, not when you're ready, when you decide. You don't wait to become someone else. You stabilize the someone inside you who already knows how to reroute energy. And you bring that self forward, through action, through order, through frequency fidelity. Every time you think the same thought, feel the same emotion, repeat the same pattern, your body goes deeper into the loop, not because it's broken, because it's loyal. Your system is loyal to the signal you send most often. That's why affirmation without recalibration is a joke. That's why therapy without somatic command is limited. Because if your baseline doesn't change, nothing else does. Your job is not to fix the body. It's to lead the field. Your job is not to unblock energy. It's to direct flow. Your job is not to feel better. It's to broadcast a new geometry so consistently that your cells have no choice but to reorganize. But that requires discipline. And discipline isn't rigid. It's regenerative. It builds safety from the inside. It creates the conditions for your system to return to its original frequency. Order, not balance, not stillness. Order. Order means every part of you knows what to do. Every breath is encoded, every movement intentional, not spiritual, strategic. Because healing isn't a retreat, it's a return to energetic architecture, and architecture doesn't happen by accident. It happens by design. So stop asking, why am I still feeling this? Start asking, what is the dominant signal I'm broadcasting right now? What system in me is unstructured? What repetitive instruction is my body receiving? Then change the signal, not emotionally, mechanically. Breathe in a new pattern. Stand in a new posture. Interrupt the thought. Issue a new command. Repeat until the old pattern disintegrates from lack of attention. This is real healing, not comforting the wound, but deactivating the program, rewriting the code, not through belief, through transmission. Because everything in your body, your pain, your cells, your mood, is listening. So stop telling the story of how long it's taking, and start giving the field something it can actually respond to. Clarity, directive, coherence, stability. Your body doesn't need love, it needs order. You've spent so much time trying to fix yourself that you forgot. The version of you that needs fixing isn't even real. It's a composite, a reactive structure, a bundle of repeated emotions, thoughts, labels, traumas, and all of it is powered by memory. Not truth, not present instruction, just loops, echoes, signal residue. And your body? It's still listening to that echo, building itself around it, until you say, enough. Because healing doesn't happen when you feel better. It happens when you stop being the version of you that generates dissonance. When you interrupt the identity that keeps calling in sickness, fog, delay. When you cancel the architecture of fragmentation and start transmitting something whole. Something exact, not emotionally, energetically, not later. Now. Let's be very clear. Your field is your identity, not your personality, not your beliefs, not your trauma. Your field, the vibrational sum of what you are being right now. Not what you want, not what you say, what you are broadcasting, in posture, in thought patterns, in habits, in emotional tone. And that signal is instructing the entire system of your biology, your environment, your timeline. So ask yourself, what signal are you stabilizing? Because your body doesn't heal from ideas. It heals from coherence, from identity convergence, when every layer of you, mind, breath, movement, will, aligns to a central instruction. Not to get better, to be ordered. And here's the part most people run from. You can't keep broadcasting incoherence and expect regeneration. You can't affirm alignment while rehearsing anxiety. You can't meditate on peace while physically collapsing into fear posture. The field doesn't listen to what you say. It listens to what you are consistently doing. That means healing isn't just releasing pain. It's refusing to repeat the self that generated it. It's deleting the version of you that runs on fear, lack, confusion, collapse. Not by fighting it, but by starving it. By removing energy from that geometry until it dies from neglect. And yes, it feels like death, because it is. The death of identity, the death of the healing self, the one who's always seeking, fixing, processing. That version of you isn't sacred. It's outdated, and every time you revive it with your attention, you pause your evolution. But here's the truth. Identity is not a constant. It's a field behavior, a pattern, a shape, and shapes can be restructured. Frequencies can be shifted. The question is, will you do it manually or wait for pain to force the issue? Because pain is just pressure from the field saying this version of you is no longer compatible with what you've asked for. That's not punishment. That's feedback. And the longer you avoid becoming the new pattern, the more intense that feedback becomes. So the real work? Stop identifying as someone in transition. That's still a delay program. Stop saying, I'm getting there. Start saying, I am now broadcasting a new structure. And then act like it. Breathe like it. Stand like it. Move like it. Until every system in your body reorients around that signal. You want self-healing? Then become a frequency your body recognizes as true. Because your body doesn't need you to explain what happened, it needs you to command what happens now. And it will follow. Instantly. Not because it's spiritual, because it's electrical. Logical, structured, but structure doesn't happen from insight. It happens from repetition, from choosing the signal over and over. Not when you feel aligned, but especially when you don't. That's when it counts. That's when rewiring happens. Not in the peak, in the pressure. So ask yourself right now, am I thinking like the structure I want to embody? Am I breathing like the healed system I claim to desire? Are my actions reinforcing or fracturing my energetic identity? Because if they're not aligned, your field is confused. And confusion is what keeps the immune system sluggish, the thoughts foggy, the nervous system split. Clarity is healing, but clarity isn't a mindset. It's a vibrational profile, and you control it by what you tolerate, what you repeat, and what you refuse to be anymore. That's the level Thoth operated at. He didn't talk about healing. He talked about construction, about structural reality engineering. That's why his teachings were encrypted, not to be mysterious, but to protect the clarity of the signal, because only those willing to drop the false self can receive the true one. And here's what's wild. You don't even have to know how. Your system knows, your cells know, your spine knows, your breath knows. But you've been overriding it with stories, with diagnosis, with emotional debris. Clear that and the system reboots instantly. So don't ask, how long will it take? Ask, how long will I keep repeating an identity that's not me? Don't ask, why is this still here? Ask, what signal have I been reinforcing unconsciously? And then, stop feeding it. Stop narrating it. Stop processing it. Starve it. Because when the field is no longer receiving the old command, it shifts. And once it shifts, it locks. And once it locks, your body catches up. Fast. That's how healing happens in seconds, in moments. Not because of magic, because of instruction fidelity. And that's what you've been building all along, not healing. Fidelity. The ability to hold a clean signal through emotional noise, environmental pressure, and internal doubt. And when you do, nothing can stop recalibration. Nothing. Because energy has no choice but to obey. You've spent so much time trying to fix yourself that you forgot. The version of you that needs fixing isn't even real. It's a composite, a reactive structure, a bundle of repeated emotions, thoughts, labels, traumas. And all of it is powered by memory, not truth, not present instruction, just loops, echoes, signal residue. And your body? It's still listening to that echo, building itself around it. Until you say, enough. Because healing doesn't happen when you feel better. It happens when you stop being the version of you that generates dissonance, when you interrupt the identity that keeps calling in sickness, fog, delay. When you cancel the architecture of fragmentation and start transmitting something whole, something exact, not emotionally, energetically, not later. Now, let's be very clear. Your field is your identity, not your personality, not your beliefs, not your trauma, your field. The vibrational sum of what you are being right now, not what you want, not what you say, what you are broadcasting, in posture, in thought patterns, in habits, in emotional tone. And that signal is instructing the entire system of your biology, your environment, your timeline. So ask yourself, what signal are you stabilizing? Because your body doesn't heal from ideas, it heals from coherence, from identity convergence. When every layer of you, mind, breath, movement, will, aligns to a central instruction. Not to get better, to be ordered. And here's the part most people run from. You can't keep broadcasting incoherence and expect regeneration. You can't affirm alignment while rehearsing anxiety. You can't meditate on peace while physically collapsing into fear posture. The field doesn't listen to what you say. It listens to what you are consistently doing. That means healing isn't just releasing pain. It's refusing to repeat the self that generated it. It's deleting the version of you that runs on fear, lack, confusion, collapse. Not by fighting it, but by starving it. By removing energy from that geometry until it dies from neglect. And yes, it feels like death. Because it is. The death of identity, the death of the healing self, the one who's always seeking, fixing, processing. That version of you isn't sacred, it's outdated. And every time you revive it with your attention, you pause your evolution. But here's the truth. Identity is not a constant. It's a field behavior, a pattern, a shape. And shapes can be restructured. Frequencies can be shifted. The question is, will you do it manually or wait for pain to force the issue? because pain is just pressure from the field saying, this version of you is no longer compatible with what you've asked for. That's not punishment. That's feedback. And the longer you avoid becoming the new pattern, the more intense that feedback becomes. So the real work, stop identifying as someone in transition. That's still a delay program. Stop saying, I'm getting there. Start saying, I am now broadcasting a new structure, and then act like it, breathe like it, stand like it, move like it, until every system in your body reorients around that signal. You want self-healing? Then become a frequency your body recognizes as true. Because your body doesn't need you to explain what happened, it needs you to command what happens now. And it will follow. Instantly. Not because it's spiritual. Because it's electrical. Logical. Structured. But structure doesn't happen from insight. It happens from repetition. From choosing the signal over and over. Not when you feel aligned, but especially when you don't. That's when it counts. That's when rewiring happens. Not in the peak, in the pressure. So ask yourself right now, am I thinking like the structure I want to embody? Am I breathing like the healed system I claim to desire? Are my actions reinforcing or fracturing my energetic identity? Because if they're not aligned, your field is confused. And confusion is what keeps the immune system sluggish, the thoughts foggy, the nervous system split. Clarity is healing. But clarity isn't a mindset. It's a vibrational profile, and you control it by what you tolerate, what you repeat, and what you refuse to be anymore. That's the level Thoth operated at. He didn't talk about healing. He talked about construction, about structural reality engineering. That's why his teachings were encrypted, not to be mysterious, but to protect the clarity of the signal. Because only those willing to drop the false self can receive the true one. And here's what's wild. You don't even have to know how. Your system knows, your cells know, your spine knows, your breath knows. But you've been overriding it with stories, with diagnosis, with emotional debris. Clear that and the system reboots instantly. So don't ask, how long will it take? Ask, how long will I keep repeating an identity that's not me? Don't ask, why is this still here? Ask, what signal have I been reinforcing unconsciously? And then, stop feeding it. Stop narrating it. Stop processing it. Starve it, because when the field is no longer receiving the old command, it shifts. And once it shifts, it locks. And once it locks, your body catches up. Fast. That's how healing happens in seconds. In moments. Not because of magic, because of instruction fidelity. And that's what you've been building all along. Not healing. Fidelity. The ability to hold a clean signal through emotional noise, environmental pressure, and internal doubt. And when you do, nothing can stop recalibration. Nothing. Because energy has no choice but to obey. You've been told that energy follows emotion, that you need to feel your way forward, that when your vibration is right, things will align. That healing, action, success, all of it flows when you're in energetic alignment. But let's clarify the lie. Energy does not follow emotion. Energy follows will. And will is not a mood. It's not passion. It's not motivation. It's structure, directive, geometry. The idea that you need to feel good to create change is a program. It's a sedative. Because energy isn't waiting for your heart to be open, your chakras to be aligned, your past to be healed. Energy is waiting for a command, and the moment that command is clear, the system responds. Emotion is reactive, it's inconsistent, it fluctuates based on memory, environment, hormones, weather. Will doesn't fluctuate, it cuts through, it directs the current, it carves a path through noise. That's the power Thoth encoded, not the power to feel more, but the power to impose order on the chaos inside and around you. That's why ancient teachings focused on discipline, intention, presence, geometry, number, sound, structure, not feelings, not hopes, not even beliefs, because none of those change your field, but will does. Will is not about force. It's about clarity. It's the part of you that knows what must happen and refuses to tolerate anything else. Will is what makes breath pattern lock in, what makes thought precision cut away distraction, what makes action become immediate, not when it feels good, but because it's the only instruction the system is now receiving. You've been trained to wait for energy, to get in the right vibe, to light the candle, set the mood. Breathe deeply. Feel the flow. That's not command. That's ritualized avoidance. And while rituals have their place, they are secondary to intent. Because without directive will, no ritual works. No affirmation holds. No practice integrates. The nervous system doesn't care how spiritual you are. It doesn't respond to incense, playlists, or sunsets. It responds to signal authority. And signal authority happens when the whole system, thought, breath, muscle, presence, converges around one transmission. That transmission is, this is what we are now doing, not hoping, not trying, not feeling, doing. Because energy doesn't recognize hope. It recognizes repetition, instruction, geometry. And if you don't give it form, it defaults to chaos. That's why you spiral. That's why your practice isn't consistent. That's why your manifestations glitch, your health fluctuates, your emotions loop. Not because you're broken, because your will is idle, and idle will gets hijacked by memory, media, noise, collective programming. But when your will is activated, the system bends, reality bends. That's not theory, that's field mechanics. Because you are not made of matter. You are made of directive frequency. Every organ is listening. Every muscle is waiting. Every nerve is built to respond to signal integrity. So the question is, what are you signaling? Indecision? You'll get confusion. Hope? You'll get delay. Emotion? You'll get fluctuation. Command? You'll get restructuring. And that's the moment you reclaim your system. When you stop feeding it ambiguity and start feeding it instruction. But instruction is not affirmation. You can't just say, I'm powerful and expect change. You have to behave as power. Speak, move, breathe, act as a coherent signal. And that means deleting anything that contradicts the command. You say, I want to be healthy, but you think sick. You say, I want to change, but you act in repetition. You say, I want clarity, but you tolerate noise, and your field is listening. So if your outer world doesn't match your inner desire, look to your energetic will, not your mindset, not your mood, your geometry of action. Is it clean? Is it exact? Is it holding shape under pressure? Because that's what real energy is. Shape held under pressure, not flow, not good vibes. Shape, a structure the universe can respond to. And when your signal has shape, everything obeys it, from biology to behavior to environment. Not because of luck, because of law. This is why Thoth taught as above, so below. Because the same law that governs stars governs your liver. The same geometry in the temple walls exists in your nervous system. The same force that bends timelines can restore tissue, not because you're spiritual, but because you are field intelligence in human form. But that intelligence has to be activated, not once, daily, repeatedly, until command becomes your baseline, until you no longer ask, how do I shift this? You simply do, with breath, with thought, with energetic presence. So stop waiting for clarity. Become clarity. Stop waiting for flow. Become force. Stop waiting for readiness. Decide. Your system doesn't care if you feel ready. It cares if you transmit certainty. That certainty doesn't come from books, or teachers, or breakthroughs. It comes from one place, your will being louder than your past. The past will speak, the emotion will speak, the trauma will speak. But when your will speaks louder, Everything aligns. So this is your practice now. Stop waiting for the mood to match the move. Move anyway, speak anyway, transmit anyway, until the mood catches up. Until the field stabilizes. Until your body recalibrates not around how you feel, but around what you decided to become. That's not affirmation. That's energetic engineering. You don't need more signs. You need more signal strength. You don't need to clear your field. You need to command it. You don't need to wait. You need to will. Because energy doesn't respect delay. It respects precision. You've been lied to about healing, about what transformation really is. You've been taught that it's about processing every layer of pain, that you need to revisit, relive, reframe every wound before you can evolve. You've been convinced that progress comes through prolonged discomfort, that to reach clarity you must first collapse into chaos, that to rise you must descend again and again and again. But that's not healing. That's addiction to self-concept. That's identity maintenance disguised as spiritual depth, because the real alchemy isn't in how much you've cried, released, or felt. It's in how much signal you've rewritten, in how many instructions you've replaced, in how fast you shift from observation to command, in how you stop worshiping your pain and start architecting your presence. Pain is not sacred. It's just feedback. It's not proof of your depth. It's proof of your resonance. And if you keep resonating with pain, you'll keep attracting experiences that validate it. You'll stay in the loop, not because you're broken, but because you keep sending the same broadcast. I am someone who heals through suffering. That identity is seductive. It makes you feel significant, like you're doing the work, like you're deeper than those who haven't cracked open like you have. But pain is not a credential. And suffering is not a spiritual rite of passage. It's a frequency. And if you stabilize that frequency long enough, your biology adapts to it, your timeline mirrors it, and your life becomes a shrine to it. That's why people get addicted to healing. Not because they want freedom, but because they've made struggle their home. They don't know who they are without the process, without the shadow work, without the constant dissection of every thought, emotion, sensation. They think that to stop suffering is to stop evolving. But the truth is the opposite. Evolution begins the moment you stop circling your wounds and start transmitting from the version of you that already moved beyond them. That version of you exists now, not after 10 more breakthroughs, not after another trauma-informed course, not after another purge. It exists now, fully encoded, fully stable, waiting for one thing: your decision to inhabit it, not by feeling your way into it, by behaving as it, by collapsing the distance between desire and embodiment, by replacing the question of why am I still stuck with the directive, this is what I now broadcast. Because you don't become free by understanding the cage, you become free by walking out, by removing your energy from the structure that reinforces your pain, by refusing to narrate it, to identify with it, to use it as a reason to delay action. You become free by becoming more interested in the transmission of truth than in the processing of history. The obsession with healing is a bypass, a delay strategy, a way to avoid stepping into power, because once you stop healing, you start building. Once you stop spiraling, you start stabilizing. And building requires direction, structure, discipline, power. That's what most people avoid. They'd rather feel than lead. They'd rather process than project. They'd rather collapse into pain than initiate coherence. But here's the truth. Pain doesn't alchemize unless you use it as fuel, not as identity, not as narrative, but as pressure that forges new signal strength. Pain is a fire, and fire doesn't liberate you just by burning. It liberates you by forging something sharper inside you, something more precise, more exact, more direct. So the real transformation is not emotional, it's architectural. It's not how much you've grieved, it's how much structure you've built. Not how many wounds you've uncovered, but how many frequencies you've corrected. Not how often you've collapsed, but how often you've stood. Clean, clear, instructive, even when your nervous system wanted to spiral. That's the real alchemy. Not converting pain into stories, but converting pain into geometric transmission, into posture, into instruction, into breath that no longer bends under pressure, into action that no longer waits for permission. You think you're stuck because you haven't healed enough, but you're stuck because you haven't made a decision. You're still leaving the door open for the old signal. You're still revisiting timelines that no longer serve you. You're still scanning for wounds instead of issuing commands. And your field is confused because it's receiving mixed signals. Part of you wants to be free. Part of you wants to stay significant through pain. You have to choose, not with words, with signal, with embodiment, with clarity that overrides everything else, because your field doesn't care what you say you want. It cares what you repeat. And if you keep repeating fragmentation, that's what your biology and reality will stabilize. But when you choose coherence, fully, consistently, relentlessly, the shift is instant, not because it's magical, because it's mathematical. That's what Thoth understood. That's why true spiritual power isn't about healing. It's about coding a new pattern into the field and holding it, no matter what. This is the part that breaks the loop. You don't need to become ready. You need to become unavailable for the old identity. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be precise. You don't need to process more. You need to practice more. Stability, focus, decision, action. Because practice reprograms the field. Practice builds signal strength. Practice builds a nervous system that no longer trembles when the past tries to re-enter. And that's when healing stops being a pursuit and becomes a side effect, a byproduct of energetic consistency. You don't need another emotional breakthrough. You need a vibrational blueprint, a signal map, a set of behaviors that anchor the version of you that already exists beyond pain, already clear, already active, already in motion. And once you activate that version, not with words but with action, the rest dissolves. Not because it's gone, but because it's no longer relevant to your frequency. That's the secret. You don't have to fix the past. You just have to become too coherent for it to connect to. You don't have to process every shadow. You just have to shine in a way that leaves no room for distortion. You don't have to fight for transformation. You just have to stabilize signal long enough for your body and reality to reflect it. This is the new spiritual geometry, not cycles, not spirals, not endless work, but energetic convergence, instant shifts, field reorganization, not because you earned it, but because you finally became the match for it. You've been taught that money is something to attract, something to align with, something to manifest through visualization, mantras, and feeling worthy. But that's a lie wrapped in cosmic language. Money doesn't come to those who hope. It comes to those who transmit structure, who hold instructional energy, who operate like law, not like longing. Because money is not spiritual. It's mathematical. It's a response, not to emotion, not to desire, but to frequency integrity. It doesn't reward good intentions. It rewards coherence. It doesn't care if you want it. It responds to whether your field can house it without collapsing. That's why people who meditate every day still struggle. That's why people who write affirmations still stay broke. That's why people who believe they're abundant still live in lack. Because money doesn't listen to what you say. It listens to what you broadcast neurologically, emotionally, behaviorally, vibrationally, every second. You've been told to think rich, to feel abundant, to trust the universe. But the universe is not a parent. It's a mirror, and it's mirroring your structure. If that structure is incoherent, disorganized breath, passive language, lack-based thoughts, inconsistent action, then the universe reflects disorder. That's not punishment. That's symmetry. You don't get paid for being spiritual. You get paid for becoming a stabilizing force in the field, a coherent signal, a transmitter of value, not emotional value, but energetic precision. That's what the system pays, not the personality. The precision, not your story, your signal clarity. This is what Thoth understood, that energy turns to matter only when encoded with form. Form is not a metaphor. It's measurable. It's the convergence of will, thought, movement, and breath. That's what makes energy collapse into manifestation. Not your vision board, not your crystals, your geometry. If your geometry is soft, your reality will be soft. If your geometry is contradictory, your reality will be unstable. If your geometry is aligned, everything responds. Not because of luck, because of law. Money is a law, not a blessing, not a mystery. A coded interaction between fields, and your field is always signaling, this is what I am prepared to hold. You say you want more, but your nervous system is stuck in survival. You say you're open to receiving, but you breathe like someone hiding. You say you're abundant, but your posture screams uncertainty. And the field obeys that, not your words. You don't earn more by doing more. You earn more by transmitting at a higher order, not higher vibration, higher order. That means more clarity, more exactness, more integrity between thought, word, and motion. That's what signals capacity. That's what activates response. This is why the rich don't think like you. They don't speak like you. They don't carry themselves like you. Not because they're better, because they've been trained, or trained themselves, to operate with energetic authority. And that authority isn't mystical, it's mechanical. It's how much contradiction their field can eliminate, how fast they act on signal, how little doubt they tolerate. That's what allows matter to obey. So stop trying to feel abundant. Start behaving as order. Start breathing like value, moving like clarity, speaking like the field responds to your instruction. Because it does. Not instantly, but exactly. And the lag between broadcast and result is not resistance, it's calibration. The system is waiting for you to become the signal consistently. Not emotionally, but electromagnetically. You think you're being blocked, but there are no blocks, only mixed signals. You say one thing, you believe another, you act like a third, and the field doesn't know which one is real. So it reflects your confusion, not your intention. Want to collapse that lag? Then collapse the gap between who you say you are and how you show up in the field. Make them identical. Make your word law. Make your action immediate. Make your thoughts obedient to your decision, not your emotion. Your decision. This is how money flows, not through wishing, through waveform convergence. When your identity, your intention, and your output all resonate as one signal. The field organizes. Money enters, because it's safe to land. You're not leaking. You're not hesitant. You're in command. That's what Thoth meant by mastery. Not power over others, power over signal, power over distortion, power to hold a frequency regardless of external noise. And money loves that kind of field because it's not emotional. It's useful, it's grounded, it's executable. You want to be paid. Then become executable. That means your ideas turn into action fast. Your thoughts translate into offers. Your breath stabilizes under pressure. Your will survives friction. That's the field money trusts, not the one that begs, not the one that aligns emotionally, the one that delivers reality to itself. So ask yourself, are you transmittable? Are you energetically consistent? Is your nervous system a stable container for expansion? Or do you still use chaos to feel alive? Because the moment you decide to stop being available for confusion and start transmitting instruction, the game changes. You stop trying to get. You start building gravitational fields, and money doesn't resist that. It accelerates toward it, because money loves structure. Money loves precision. Money serves signal integrity. That's the law. That's the Kybalion. That's the hidden mechanics no one told you because they were too busy selling you hope. But you don't need hope. You need instruction. And that instruction must come from you, daily, consistently, until your field becomes a blueprint, and reality can't help but follow. You've heard enough, read enough, felt enough. You don't need more knowledge. You need to choose. Because everything you've just seen, everything we've broken, rebuilt, remembered, it leads to one singular reality. There is no one else coming. No savior, no guru, no final answer. Only you, and your field, and what it commands. You've been initiated now, not into a belief system, but into signal accountability. That means every second going forward, the field is listening, watching, matching you. Not for your words, for your signal, for how much structure you hold, for how much contradiction you delete, for how many moments you choose coherence over comfort. Because this isn't about understanding the Kybalion. This is about becoming the kind of field the Kybalion was written for. You don't study law to admire it. You study law to embody it, to become a signal strong enough to instruct reality, not negotiate with it. The old you wants to come back, the one who feels more than moves, who waits for signs, who wants proof before action. That version dies now, not metaphorically, energetically. You bury it by refusing to match its frequency ever again, not with thought, not with breath, not with hesitation. This is the end of delay, the end of waiting for healing, the end of hoping reality shifts without cost. There is always a cost, and the cost is your old identity, your story, your comfort, your permission to stay small. Burn it, all of it, not later, now, because everything you want, the health, the clarity, the power, the wealth, it already exists. Not in some timeline you need to reach, in this one, waiting for one thing, your full convergence, your broadcast to stabilize, your field to stop wobbling, and the second it does, everything begins to move. You will be tested. That's not a threat. That's law. The universe wants to know if your signal is real, if your standard holds under pressure, if your geometry survives collision. It won't be personal. It'll be precision feedback. Your only job is to hold your frequency, no matter what the mirror shows, because the mirror only changes when you stop reacting to it and start overwriting it. That's what Thoth encoded. That's what the Kybalion outlines. That's what real power is, the end of spiritual drama, the end of inner storytelling, the beginning of energetic authorship. You write the signal now. You architect the code. You speak as the field, and everything else adjusts. If that scares you, good. Power should scare the part of you that's still passive, that still wants comfort, that still wants to blame, wait, explain, kill that part. Replace it with instruction. Replace it with geometry. Replace it with presence that gives no exit to the old world. Because once you see this, you can't go back. You can't pretend you don't know how it works. You can't pretend energy is mystical. You can't pretend healing takes years. You can't pretend the universe decides it's you. It's always been you. And now, you know exactly how to move. So move. Don't share this, apply it, don't admire this, live it. Every breath, every word, every decision must match the field you've been shown, not tomorrow. Now. That's the only way forward, and there is no way back.